Hello folks, so here we are back and basically we are already running the app here. We have some problems on loading, but in the end it loaded with a few failures, and the idea now is just like explore a bit more of what we have there and just to guarantee we understand how these objects work. So let's go into Rails console now and let's just try to understand how the download gem downloads dot first. So here we got the first gem, and it says here that it contains a version, and it also says here that it contains a Ruby gem. First dot Ruby gem. Okay, so and then we have the blank. Okay, so if I say Ruby gem dot find first, yeah, let's say find by name. So timescale db is also my gem. Yay, it's here. So let's put it in a variable, for example t dot versions count, and we have the versions. If I say versions, I can see that all the versions. So I see the description. Probably the description does not change that much, but we can see here that it's ongoing, and that's my work in progress in this thing. And then we can also see here that we have downloads, and we can see the downloads count in this case, and we probably have here gem download, that is this object that contains the count and everything. So as you can see here, the version ID is what makes it different. So for example, if we say gem download dot where, and then we get this Ruby gem here. So for example, Ruby gem, then we will have all the versions here. So the 0 version is the sum of all the others, and then we have a number of downloads for each gem. So I can imagine that until here I don't have real users. It's like just like folks that are using like an automation that download it, but as you can see, numbers change it from time to time, and sometimes it's just like bots and other stuff. So it's also very hard to understand and predict where the data comes from. So the thing is, like, this is not time series data, so it's like just like tracking the version. We could use like the version when it's created as a way to also slice it and think as a time series thing, but we don't have any other way to break this down. Like, where are these downloads coming from? Are all of them valid? Some of them failed, or anything like this. So this is also things that we can think now, and maybe we will end up finding ways to improve as well. So very happy to see how it works. And now if we see here, so we have download gem download dot where version. Oh, I have this for all gems. That's so cool. And then you can see here it's just getting the 0 and 0, and we can see here we have a simple, very small amount of 163 billion downloads. So that's so cool. I hope we find a way to get our row by row of these downloads in the timescale database. That would be a dream if we have a way to make it. And that's the direction that we are going. So now that we see how the data works and that we see that we already have one database here, we can try to see if we have access to this secondary database. So actually here in this scenario where we have config slash database, we just have like development here, and development has this primary database, and then we have everything here in this primary scenario, right? And this is the Rubygems default, using localhost, using all the defaults, and now we can also think about like just introducing here the timescale as another DB, but this is not primary, so this is the development, and this is a bit different. So I would like to just recap how Samuel did it in the past as a thing that we can make. And as I can see here in his draft, if we go here to database YML, you can see here config slash database. Yeah, so here he just like break down development into the downloads database and created the defaults for timescale. So I think this is pretty good, and this is what we need for our sample. So probably we can also use this as a base for what we want. And also a great thing that I was not thinking yet is this like a migration path that probably is something that we really need. So let's build it and let's make it happen, and let's just make it here. So timescale, and then we can say here timescale adapter is also Postgres. We can also remove this, and extensions here it says timescale DB. I didn't know about this. This is just a suggestion. Probably we don't need it because we are going to also enable it directly in the Docker image we are using, or like directly in the cloud service. It will already be enabled, so that's how it should work. And the pool size here, I guess that's fine. So here now we can say also that we have downloads as our database, and then we can say that it inherits the timescale one. And it says dev password here. That's a lie. I guess we don't have this password into the Docker Compose file. We don't define the password. For some reason it does not have a password, so probably just leave it empty is enough. And the localhost, in theory, it should work. It should bind as the other database is already working. So in theory we already have this database working, and then that is the next step to make it work. And probably we will need a similar environment here for the primary, for the downloads, and we will need the same thing for this downloads test. For now I don't have any of these databases, but we can easily create it in the original script as we are building it now. And then we'll also probably need the same for staging, so downloads database, so we'll have the same. And production, then the production will also be the same. Probably we'll need it. Let's put it here, downloads, and this is the same. That is not here. It's not going to be host. It's not going to have a password here, and probably the pool here will be a bit smaller. Probably I don't think we'll need all these connections, so let's start with 10, and then we can also see if we need more. For the development we need 5. I will be loading everything here and we are going to revisit it later, but let's just keep it enabled here. I think here we also use the pool of 5, and this is also a thing that we can keep doing. Here SMO uses 30, so probably it's just like mimicking production. Let's just do the same, just to make it. Also, it's interesting that the primary only staging have it, and probably we should do it, right? So staging probably don't need any of these, the pool, big pool, and so let's just make 30 in here. I don't think we will need it, but yeah, let's discover it. Okay, so here when we have this space, probably we can also define the Postgres password or the timescale password if you want to mess with these, or at least keep the same as the Postgres. So I think if we want to make it the same, we can do it, and Postgres password is Postgres. This is the real default. We can also just change it to dev password that was what is already in the other database. So we keep it simple, we keep it very easy dev. So let's change here when we say password and I empty password. That's all the lines that I added. So let's just do something here that we say password and then we say dev password. Yeah, probably this is also something that we can just keep it there in the default space. And oops, this comes, oh, it looks like a practice that it's not there, so let's keep it then. Yeah, let's keep it the dev password where it is, and let's move on and see if it works, because this is how we need to make it work. So the primary is the database that is already working, and now we have this extra database here that's just configured, but we never used it. So that's my first time trying this thing. So let's try to go back to Rails console and let's see if we can learn how to interact with this secondary database. So as far as I get in this scenario that I see here something like connects to, yeah, so here I see that timescale.db Rails application record connects to this extra database, and this is a kind of interface to just like make this inheritance by default. So timescale.db Rails is a library that's also in the timescale.db ecosystem, and I am also collaborating with the owner of this library, and we need to say something like this. So we need to create this type of space to start. So application record is basically something that we can just invent our own. So if we say here class my db, for example, and then we say here that it's inherit this application record, for example, I can even say like this, application record. Let me just move my camera here. Record. And this is something that we can say here. So we can say self.connects to, and then we say here readings download, writings download. So this is what we need here. Connects to the database, and then it says can only be called by abstract classes. Okay, so that's why it needs to say self.abstract before we continue. So let's copy this thing and just edit. Oh, I cannot edit it here, so let's do try edit. Yes, and now I can just start this and just say self abstract class equal true. Okay, now we have a class, and this class is connecting to this other database that is the downloads database, that is Rubygems downloads development database. I think we don't have this database yet, but let's see what we can do now. So in theory, this object is MyDB. MyDB is the abstract class, and then we need to create some extra class to then really interact with the database as a thing. So this MyDB is our application record level that we need. So let's say here that it's our timescale record connection timescale application record. Now let's call it downloads. Equal MyDB. I love this. This is why I love prototyping with Ruby and just doing crazy things like this in the terminal. So in this moment we have this class, and we can just now say class. Let's invent some table name, table TBL extends downloads application record, and then we can say and now we can say tbl.first, and we will fail because we don't have the database. And to create the database, we can run bin rails db create, and let's just try this. I'm afraid of running this and just need to create all the database, but let's just discover it by doing. Okay, now we have this new database, and this looks created. So now if I try again, it says the table does not exist, right? So now we need to start inventing everything and just trying to prototype this thing. So I really love prototyping. I really like the idea of prototyping really small things that we can build. So let's move on and try to just implement this as we go. So now we can say here that we have a connection. And in this connection, the cool thing here is that we can use class eval. For example, I can say here, create table. And it says that the method exists, it just don't have the right number of arguments. So we can just like run as a migration here and prototype it, or we can just start doing this migration into this new folder. So now we can start having fun and trying to interact with the timescale database that is running in this downloads connection, right? So let's see how we can start. One thing that we can do is introduce timescaledb library to just have a fast access here. So let's just do it, and let's see bundle add timescaledb. I'm going to introduce my library because I just think it's easy to create this concept and in the end we can just migrate to it later. I don't know if we will need, but let's start with what we have here. So now the library is available, and we can also do something. So I will start doing here some first model to allow us to play, or we can also introduce this now as part of a migration or something. So if we go to config, go to